In this video, I'm going to cover the story of the Daimler Chrysler Merger, which occurred from 1998 to 2007. I'll try to explain why this happened, as well as look at the cars that came out of this era. So why did this merger happen? The 1990s were a time of change in the automotive industry. Mercedes were a household name for their excellence, but their profitability was declining and they wanted greater expansion into the strong American market. The thinking was that Benz needed to grow as a company to achieve sustainability. Meanwhile, Chrysler, the smallest of the big three American makes, wanted to expand their international reach and access new technology. Chrysler's front-wheel drive cars were popular, and their brands like Jeep were well regarded at the time and lucrative. The auto industry was maturing and consolidating in the late 1990s, and the biggest companies were getting even bigger. Chrysler president Bob Eaton was concerned about the challenges facing the auto industry and looked for a partner to tackle them. Ultimately, talks began between the two, and in May 1998, the merger was announced. At the time, it was the largest industrial merger in history. Chairman Jürgen Schrempp of Daimler Benz emphasized this as a merger of equals, a very famous quote from this deal. Although it quickly became apparent that this was no merger of equals, but rather a Daimler-Benz takeover of Chrysler. Schrempp soon admitted that Chrysler had merely become a subsidiary of Daimler. The leadership at Mercedes-Benz were very protective of their brand and its prestige. Chrysler's people were shut out, and many key people left the company. Former Chrysler president Bob Lutz was critical of the merger. He described the two companies as being run separately, from finance departments to engineering, even a few years into the merger. Not to mention the cultural clash between Americans and Germans in management and leadership. From a business point of view, the merger was a complete failure. The strength and profitability that was theorized did not materialize, and Chrysler in particular was volatile during the economic slowdown of 2001, reporting significant losses. In 2006, Dieter Zetsche replaced Schrempp as chairman. In that same year, Daimler Chrysler reported losses and was looking to get rid of unprofitable Chrysler. In August 2007, Chrysler was sold off, and Daimler Chrysler became Daimler AG. So what did it mean for Mercedes cars? Not that much, but there were certainly arguments. Synonymous with this era is the point that Mercedes' quality and customer care was declining. In this scholarly article from 2007, the author argues that quality and reliability problems with Mercedes vehicles in the early 2000s threatened the company's long-term tradition of quality automobiles. A report at the time suggested that reliability issues, for example the M-Class SUV, receiving the least reliable rating when compared to its tested peers. In addition, Consumer Reports concluded that there had been a decline in reliability for Mercedes over the early 2000s, giving it the lowest rank of the 36 brands they evaluated. J.D. Power also indicated similar findings, putting Mercedes below average for initial quality and reliability in the early to mid-2000s. The author concludes by saying, should this situation go unattended, a similar downturn in consumer beliefs and perceived image may follow. The quality question was certainly widespread. Indeed, most car makers were trying to cut costs, create economies of scale, and ramp up profitability during this time. Mercedes cars also had a lot of new features and technology that could go wrong. Some point to Mercedes moving more and more of their production to the United States and other places instead of Germany. I have heard people call the R-Class bad quality because it was made in the US. I really don't believe that Mercedes would have lower standards in a factory in the USA compared to Germany. The truth is that a Mercedes made in the USA is actually much more common today than it was during the Daimler Chrysler era. The C-Class of 2005 was still made in Germany, but the C-Class of 2023 could have certainly been built in the USA for North American customers. So there are quite a few criticisms of Mercedes during the merger and arguments about its quality, but Chrysler didn't really have much to do with it. So what did Chrysler get out of the merger? Well, they got dumped in 2007, lost most of their value as a company, and went bankrupt in 2009. But some of the investments made during the merger benefited Chrysler for many years after the merger ended. Chrysler introduced a collection of new models based on Mercedes platforms and engines. The 300C, for example, was based on a lot of similar structural elements inspired by the W211 E-Class for its LX platform. Not to mention a ton of shared components such as suspension parts, transmission, differential, electronics, and more.
Dear Dr. Z, is there really German technology in my Chrysler 300C?
John, every Chrysler uses the best of American and German engineering and design. This 5-link rear suspension is only one example. They add small links for better performance and handling.
Cool.
What would you expect? We invented the automobile. Auf Wiedersehen.
Excuse me, Dr. Z, a quick question. What have been the benefits of the merger between Daimler Benz and Chrysler?
Okay, get in. Clearly, we have successfully combined the best in American and German engineering and design.
You might want to slow down just a tad.
For example, the Dodge Charger suspension originated in Germany.
Getting back to having a rear-wheel drive V8 sedan was a long time coming for Chrysler, and it was a step in the right direction. During this time, Chrysler introduced SRT, a brand which I believe was roughly modeled off of AMG. Essentially, high-performance engines and more aggressive styling and suspension tuning. The Crossfire was based on the Mercedes SLK, and the SRT6 version incorporated AMG's M112K supercharged V6. Some Chrysler brands like Jeep were expanded into Europe, even being built in Magna Steyr factories, which were also used by Mercedes. While only a concept car, the ME412 was an interesting design with power coming from a Mercedes V12. So it can be argued that Chrysler benefited from this merger in terms of its design, which still runs to the present day, where the Chrysler 300C just went out of production at the end of 2023. Other products such as the Dodge Charger were also based on that Mercedes-derived LX platform. Later models on the updated LD platform, such as the Charger Hellcat, were very popular in recent years. And when you look back at the Mercedes roots of this platform, I think it isn't hard to imagine that Dodge's engineers had the designs of the E55 when they were working on the Hellcat. Beyond the Mercedes lineage, it was also the fact that the Hellcat's engine ran a twin-screw supercharger from the same supplier, IHI Industries, as the E55 did. 2 spark plugs per cylinder, V8 sedan, automatic, it's quite a few similarities. So Chrysler benefited from the technology and parts transfer, but that came late on in the merger. However, the business and marketing side was a disaster, and Chrysler's products during the merger were a hit or miss, usually the latter. Mercedes has clearly distanced themselves from Chrysler in the past decade and a half since the merger ended. Mercedes played it safe during the recession of 2008, before a boom in 2010 to 2011, driven by high sales and tapping into growing markets like China. Was there a quality difference after the merger ended? Mercedes claimed that they were going back to their old ways and making significant investments to ensure better quality. It's hard to get good data on reliability, but for example, J.D. Power, who ranked Mercedes as below average quality during the merger, put Mercedes above average in 2011 for build quality and reliability. Germany's ADAC had similar findings as well. Remember though, a lot of the problems found in these studies are initial hiccups and issues in the first few years of ownership. If we today take an equivalent Mercedes model from say 2005, right in the height of the Daimler Chrysler era, and 2011, which is well past the end of the merger, there's no significant difference in quality. The quality may have slightly improved, but this is certainly disputed by some Mercedes enthusiasts. The Daimler Chrysler era brought about many favorites of Mercedes history, such as the SLR McLaren and cars like the SL55, E55, and so on. But these are high-end models. The counter is that a lot of Mercedes' worst cars were also made during this period. If the merger never happened, I don't think Mercedes cars would have been that different. It's simply how they chose to take on the turn of the century. They were clearly very protective about the brand, and Chrysler was mostly just pushed over to the side. Anyways, that's it for this video. I hope I covered this much-studied topic of Daimler Chrysler in enough detail. Thanks for watching. If you want to support the channel, take a look at my store. Link is in the description. If you want to see more Mercedes and AMG content, subscribe for more videos like this one.